The rain hit the windshield like accusations, sharp, relentless, impossible to ignore. Adrian Blake's hands gripped the steering wheel tight enough to hurt, his passenger seat occupied by the one woman in Portland who could ruin his life with a single word. Victoria Hale sat 3 feet away, soaked designer coat clinging to her shoulders, saying nothing. Outside, the storm raged. Inside his beat-up Honda, the silence was worse. He'd made exactly 2 choices tonight: offer his boss a ride and lie to himself that it meant nothing. Both were mistakes. Both were about to cost him everything he'd spent 6 years protecting. If you want to see where this night takes them, where desperation meets power and neither one walks away unchanged, stay with me until the end. Hit that like button and drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. Adrian Blake had exactly $43 in his checking account and a daughter who needed new shoes. He knew this because he'd checked his phone 3 times during his lunch break, scrolling past the overdraft warnings to the photo of Emma's school picture, gap-toothed smile, hair he'd tried and failed to braid that morning, eyes that trusted him to figure it out. She was 7. She didn't know that figuring it out meant choosing between the electric bill and groceries, or that her father spent most nights awake doing math that never worked out right. The Portland rain hammered the warehouse loading dock where Adrian stood, November cold seeping through his jacket. 6:15 p.m. His shift had ended at 6, but Marcus had called in sick again, which meant Adrian stayed to finish the inventory count because that's what you did when you couldn't afford to lose a job that barely paid enough to matter. His phone buzzed. The daycare. Mr. Blake? Just reminding you we close at 6:30 sharp. Emma's still here. I know. I'm leaving now. He wasn't. The count was half done, and his supervisor, Paul, who had 3 DUIs and a God complex, was watching him from the office window. Adrian's jaw tightened. He finished the last row of boxes in 4 minutes flat, scribbled the numbers on the clipboard, and jogged through the rain to his car. The Honda Civic was 15 years old and sounded like it was coughing up a lung, but it started. Small victories. He made it to Little Sprouts daycare at 6:34. Miss Rodriguez was waiting by the door with Emma's backpack and a smile that didn't quite hide her irritation. Mr. Blake! I'm sorry, work ran late. This is the 3rd time this month. I know. Emma appeared in the doorway behind Miss Rodriguez, rain boots on the wrong feet, clutching the stuffed rabbit she'd named Steve. When she saw Adrian, her whole face lit up. Daddy! The knot in his chest loosened, just enough. Hey, Bug, ready to go? She nodded and took his hand. Miss Rodriguez handed him a paper. Tuition reminder, it's due Friday. Adrian folded it without looking. Got it. Thanks. The drive home was 10 minutes of Emma talking about her day. Something about a boy named Tyler who ate paste, and how she'd built a tower in blocks that was taller than her head. Adrian made the right sounds, asked the right questions, and tried not to think about the number on that paper. $460. Due in 3 days. Their apartment was a 1-bedroom walk-up in southeast Portland, 4th floor, no elevator. Adrian had given Emma the bedroom and slept on the couch, which was fine because he barely slept anyway. The heat worked most of the time. The neighbors were loud but harmless. It was enough. Dinner was scrambled eggs and toast. Emma did her homework at the kitchen table while Adrian washed dishes and mentally rearranged his budget for the 100th time. Borrow from his sister again? She'd helped twice already. Pick up another shift? He was already at 50 hours a week. Daddy, what's 6 times 7? 42. Are you sure? Yeah, Bug, I'm sure. She wrote it down, tongue poking out in concentration. Adrian dried his hands and sat across from her, watching her work. She had his dark hair, his stubborn chin, her mother's eyes, light brown, quick to laugh. Natalie had been gone for 5 years, cancer, fast and vicious. Emma barely remembered her. Adrian remembered enough for both of them. By 8:30, Emma was asleep. Adrian sat on the couch with his laptop, scrolling through job listings he'd seen a dozen times before. Warehouse supervisor, forklift operator, night security. Everything required certifications he couldn't afford or availability he didn't have. His phone buzzed. Paul, his supervisor. Need you to come in early tomorrow, 5 a.m. Big shipment. Adrian closed his eyes. Emma's daycare didn't open until 6. He typed back, can't do 5. I can be there by 7. 3 dots appeared. disappeared, appeared again. Fine. But you're on thin ice, Blake. Adrian set the phone down and let his head fall back against the couch. Thin ice. Right. Everything in his life was thin ice. The next morning, he got Emma to daycare at 6:05 and made it to the warehouse by 6:40. Paul was already there, leaning against the loading dock with a coffee cup and a smirk. Cutting it close. I'm here. Barely. Adrian walked past him without answering. The warehouse was massive. Rows of shelving units stretching back into fluorescent shadows, forklifts beeping, the smell of cardboard and diesel. He clocked in, pulled on his safety vest, and got to work. 3 hours later, his back was screaming and his hands were numb. He was hauling a pallet of electronics toward the loading bay when Paul appeared again. Blake, office wants you. Adrian straightened. What for? Hell if I know. Probably screwed something up. The office was a prefab box overlooking the warehouse floor. Adrian climbed the metal stairs and knocked. Come in. He stepped inside. The office manager, a sharp-eyed woman named Diane, sat behind a desk covered in paperwork. Standing beside her, looking completely out of place in a charcoal suit and heels, was Victoria Hale. Adrian froze. Victoria Hale owned the company. Not just this warehouse, the entire logistics empire that employed 3,000 people across the Pacific Northwest. Adrian had seen her exactly twice. Once in a company-wide email about quarterly earnings, and once in person 6 months ago when she'd toured the facility with a crowd of executives. She hadn't looked at him then. She was looking at him now. Mr. Blake, Diane said, Miss Hale wanted to speak with you. Adrian's mind went blank. Me. Victoria stepped forward. She was tall, maybe 5'9", with dark hair pulled into a sleek ponytail and eyes that didn't give anything away. Everything about her was precise. Tailored suit, minimal jewelry, posture that suggested she'd never slouched in her life. I'll keep this brief, she said. Her voice was calm, controlled. I've been reviewing employee records. You've been with us for 3 years, correct? Yes, ma'am. Your attendance is borderline. Your performance reviews are adequate. You've never been promoted, never requested additional training, never applied for supervisory roles. She paused. Why? Adrian blinked. I have responsibilities outside of work. Everyone has responsibilities, Mr. Blake. Right, He stopped. There was no good answer here. I do my job. You do the minimum required of your job, Victoria corrected, which raises the question, is this a lack of ambition or a lack of capacity? Heat crept up Adrian's neck. Diane was watching him like this was a performance review he hadn't prepared for. Victoria's expression hadn't changed. I'm a single parent, Adrian said, voice tight. I have a 7-year-old daughter. I work as much as I can while still being there for her. If that's not ambitious enough, I don't know what to tell you. Something flickered in Victoria's eyes. Not sympathy. Something harder to name. Understood, she said. That's all? Diane nodded. You can go, Mr. Blake. Adrian left before he said something that would get him fired. The rest of the shift dragged. He kept replaying the conversation, trying to figure out if he'd just tanked his job or if it had been some kind of test. Either way, it didn't matter. He needed this paycheck. He needed the next one and the one after that. At 3 p.m., Paul waved him over. You're off early. Boss wants the Civic brought around front. What? Ms. Hale's car broke down. You're giving her a ride. Adrian stared at him. You're kidding. Do I look like I'm kidding? She asked for you specifically, said you're headed the same direction. That made no sense. Adrian lived in a low-rent neighborhood on the east side. Victoria Hale lived, well, he didn't know where she lived, but it sure as hell wasn't near him. Fine, he muttered. He brought the Civic around to the front entrance where Victoria was waiting under the awning. The rain had started again, light but steady. She had a leather briefcase in one hand and her phone in the other. Adrian rolled down the window. Ms. Hale? She looked at the car, then at him. For half a second, he thought she was going to change her mind. Instead, she opened the passenger door and slid inside. The Civic's interior smelled like old coffee and Emma's fruit snacks. The seatbelt on the passenger side stuck. Victoria yanked it twice before it clicked. Adrian pulled out of the lot, hyper-aware of every rattle in the engine, every stain on the upholstery. "Where to?" he asked. "West Hills, I'll direct you." Of course, West Hills, where houses started at 2 million and went up from there. They drove in silence for 10 minutes. Rain streaked the windshield. The wiper squeaked. "You have a daughter," Victoria said suddenly. Adrian glanced at her. "Yes." "How old?" 7. "What's her name?" "Emma." Victoria nodded, gaze fixed on the road ahead. "That's why you turned down the supervisor training." It wasn't a question. Adrian's hands tightened on the wheel. "The hours didn't work," he said. "You could have made them work." "No, I couldn't." Another silence, longer this time. "I respect that," Victoria said quietly. Adrian didn't know what to say to that, so he said nothing. She directed him through winding roads into the hills, where the houses got bigger and the streetlights got farther apart. Finally, she pointed to a gated driveway. "Here." Adrian pulled up to the gate. It didn't open. Victoria frowned and pulled out her phone. "The system's down." She tried the gate manually. Nothing. "I can call someone," Adrian offered. "No, I'll handle it." She made a call, waited, hung up. "Maintenance won't be here for an hour." The rain was coming down harder now. "I can wait," Adrian said. Victoria looked at him, really looked at him for the first time since she'd gotten in the car. "Do you have somewhere you need to be?" He thought of Emma at daycare. He had 45 minutes before pickup. "Not yet." "Then come inside, I'll make coffee." It wasn't a request. Adrian parked on the street and followed her through a side entrance, a hidden gate that opened with a code. The property was massive. Manicured lawn, stone pathways, a house that looked like it belonged in a magazine. Inside was worse. High ceilings, modern furniture, everything white and chrome and untouchable. Adrian stood in the entryway, dripping rainwater onto marble floors. "Take your coat off," Victoria said, shrugging out of her own. Underneath, her blouse was damp across the shoulders. Adrian hesitated, then peeled off his jacket. Victoria disappeared down a hallway. He heard water running, cabinets opening. When she returned, she'd changed into a sweater and jeans. It was jarring, seeing her like that, without the armor of the suit. "Sit," she said, gesturing to the kitchen island. He sat. She made coffee in a machine that probably cost more than his rent. When she handed him a mug, their fingers brushed. "Thank you," Adrian said. "You're welcome." They drank in silence. Outside, the storm picked up, wind rattling the windows, rain drumming the roof. "This house is too big," Victoria said abruptly. Adrian looked at her. "I bought it 5 years ago," she continued. "Thought I'd grow into it. Host dinners, fill the rooms, but I work 80-hour weeks and come home to silence." She set her mug down. "It's ridiculous, isn't it, having all this space and no one to share it with?" "I wouldn't know," Adrian said. "My apartment's 400 square feet. Her mouth twitched, almost a smile. "And you share it with your daughter?" "Yeah." "That sounds better." Adrian studied her. The perfect posture was still there, but something in her expression had shifted. She looked tired. Not physically, emotionally. "Why did you ask for me?" he said. "For the ride." Victoria met his eyes. "Because you were honest with me. This morning, in the office, you didn't try to impress me or make excuses. You just told me the truth." She paused. "No one tells me the truth anymore." "Maybe because you scare the hell out of them." This time, she did smile. Small, but real. "Fair point." The rain pounded harder. Thunder rolled in the distance. "I should go," Adrian said, checking his phone. "I have to pick up Emma." "Right." Victoria stood. "I'll call you a—" The lights went out. They both froze. Emergency lights flickered on in the hallway, casting faint shadows. "Power's out," Victoria said unnecessarily. Adrian pulled out his phone. No service. "Storm must have taken down a tower," he muttered. Victoria checked her own phone. Same result. She exhaled slowly. "Looks like you're stuck here a little longer." Adrian's pulse kicked up. Not panic, something else. "I need to get to Emma." "I understand, but you can't drive in this. Not safely." She gestured toward the window, where the rain was now a solid sheet of water. "Give it 30 minutes. If it doesn't let up, I'll figure something out. 30 minutes. Adrian checked the time, 6:05. The daycare closed at 6:30. He sat back down. Victoria lit a candle, then another. The kitchen filled with soft, flickering light. Tell me about her, she said. Emma. What do you want to know? Anything. So he did. He told her about Emma's obsession with dinosaurs, her habit of wearing mismatched socks on purpose, the way she narrated everything she drew like she was recording a documentary. He told her about the hard parts, too, the late-night fevers, the questions about her mom that he didn't know how to answer, the constant fear that he wasn't enough. Victoria listened without interrupting. When he finished, she refilled his coffee. You're doing better than you think, she said. You don't know that. I do, because she's still smiling in that photo on your phone. Adrian glanced down. He hadn't realized she'd seen it. What about you? He asked. Any kids? No. Ever want them? Victoria's expression shuddered. I wanted a lot of things, but I chose this instead. She gestured vaguely at the house, the empire it represented. I chose control, predictability, success. She paused. Loneliness. The word hung in the air between them. That's not a choice you have to keep making, Adrian said quietly. Isn't it? Victoria's eyes were dark, unreadable. I've built my entire life around control, Adrian. Let go of that. And what's left? I don't know. Maybe something real. She stared at him. The candlelight caught the edge of her jaw, the line of her throat. You don't know me, she said. No. But I know what it looks like when someone's pretending everything's fine. The silence stretched. Outside, the storm raged on. Inside, something shifted, a charge in the air, invisible but undeniable. Victoria stood. For a moment, Adrian thought she was going to ask him to leave. Instead, she crossed to where he sat and stopped, close enough that he could smell her perfume. Something subtle, expensive. This is a terrible idea, she said softly. Yeah, you should go. I know. Neither of them moved. Victoria reached out, her fingers brushing his jaw. The touch was feather-light, hesitant. Adrian's breath caught. Tell me to stop, she whispered. He didn't. She kissed him. It wasn't soft. It wasn't careful. It was months of loneliness crashing into years of exhaustion, and for one reckless moment, neither of them cared about consequences. Adrian stood, his hands finding her waist, pulling her closer. She made a sound against his mouth, half gasp, half surrender, and kissed him harder. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, the rain had started to ease. Victoria stepped back, her expression somewhere between shock and something darker. She started. Adrian's phone buzzed. The daycare. Reality snapped back into focus. I have to go, he said, voice rough. Victoria nodded. Yes. He grabbed his jacket, hands shaking. At the door he paused. Victoria, don't, she said. Just go. So he did. He made it to the daycare at 6:50, soaked and wired, and unable to think straight. Miss Rodriguez gave him a look that promised a conversation later. Emma bounced into his arms, oblivious. Daddy, you're all wet. Yeah, Bug, big storm. On the drive home, Emma chattered about her day. Adrian made the right sounds, but his mind was stuck in that kitchen, in the dark, with a woman who terrified and fascinated him in equal measure. He'd crossed a line tonight. And the worst part? He wanted to cross it again. Adrian didn't sleep that night. He lay on the couch, staring at the ceiling, replaying every second of what had happened in Victoria's kitchen. The kiss. The way she'd looked at him afterward, like she'd just made a mistake she couldn't take back. The rain still hammered against the windows of his apartment, but all he could hear was her voice saying, "Don't," when he'd tried to speak. By morning, he'd convinced himself it was a one-time thing, a moment of weakness brought on by a power outage and too much honesty. She was a billionaire CEO. He was a warehouse worker living paycheck to paycheck. Their worlds didn't overlap except for the accident of employment, and even that felt temporary. He got Emma ready for school, made her breakfast, braided her hair in a lopsided attempt that she declared perfect anyway. At drop-off, she hugged him tight. Love you, Daddy. Love you too, Bug. When he got to the warehouse, Paul was waiting by the loading dock with his usual scowl. You're late. Adrian checked his phone. 6:58. His shift started at 7. I'm 2 minutes early. Not early enough. Paul jerked his chin toward the office. Boss wants to see you again. Adrian's stomach dropped. Diane? Nope. The real boss. Victoria. Adrian climbed the stairs to the office on legs that didn't feel steady. Through the window, he could see her standing with her back to the door, phone pressed to her ear. She was in another suit, navy this time, just as sharp as yesterday's. He knocked. She turned, saw him, and said something clipped into the phone before ending the call. Mr. Blake, come in. He stepped inside and closed the door. The small room suddenly felt smaller. You wanted to see me? Victoria set her phone down. Her expression was unreadable, professional mask firmly in place. I'm making some organizational changes, she said. Effective immediately, you're being moved to a new position. Logistics coordinator. It comes with a salary increase and better hours. Adrian blinked. What? You'll be working directly with the management team to streamline inventory processes. 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. Benefits included. His mind scrambled to catch up. I don't understand. I haven't applied for... You didn't need to. I reviewed your file. You have 3 years of experience, you know the systems, and you're reliable when you're not being undermined by a scheduling conflict. She paused. This is a promotion, Mr. Blake. I suggest you take it. Adrian stared at her. Yesterday, she'd questioned his ambition. Today, she was handing him a promotion he hadn't earned. Is this because of last night? Something flickered across her face. Last night was a mistake. This is a business decision. Bullshit. The word was out before he could stop it. Victoria's eyes narrowed. Excuse me? You're giving me a promotion because you feel guilty, Adrian said, or because you want to keep me quiet. Either way, it's not a business decision. I don't feel guilty, Victoria said coldly, and I don't need to keep you quiet because nothing happened that matters. That stung more than it should have. Then why? She held his gaze. Because you're wasting your potential loading boxes when you could be doing more. Because your daughter deserves a father who doesn't have to choose between paying rent and picking her up on time. And because... She stopped, looked away. Because I can do this, and I'm doing it. Accept the position or don't. But if you turn it down out of pride, you're an idiot. Adrian's jaw worked. She was right. He hated that she was right. When do I start? Today. Report to Marcus Chen in planning. He'll get you set up. Okay. He turned to leave. Her voice stopped him at the door. Adrian? He looked back. She was still standing by the desk, arms crossed, expression carefully neutral, but her eyes gave her away. Last night was a mistake, she said again, quieter this time. It can't happen again. I know. Good. He left before either of them could say anything else that might be a lie. The new position was everything Victoria had promised. Marcus Chen was an efficient guy in his 40s who explained Adrian's responsibilities in 15 minutes flat. Inventory tracking, vendor coordination, scheduling optimization. The work was interesting. The hours were manageable. The pay was almost double what he'd been making. Adrian called the daycare during his lunch break and arranged to pick Emma up at a reasonable time for once. Then he sat in his new desk chair and tried to process what had just happened. A week ago, he'd been counting pennies. Now he had health insurance and a retirement plan. All because he'd kissed his boss in the dark. Over the next 3 days, Adrian threw himself into the new job. He learned the software, memorized the vendor contacts, started identifying inefficiencies in the current system. Marcus seemed impressed. The rest of the management team treated him like he'd been there all along. He didn't see Victoria once. On Thursday, Marcus asked him to stay late for a planning meeting. Adrian called his sister, who agreed to pick up Emma. The meeting ran until 7, and when it finally ended, Adrian walked out of the conference room to find the office mostly empty, except for Victoria's corner office. The light was still on. He should have left. Should have walked straight to the elevator and gone home. Instead, he knocked. Come in. She was at her desk, laptop open, reading glasses perched on her nose. She looked exhausted. Adrian. She took off the glasses. What are you still doing here? Planning meeting ran late. You? Same thing I'm always doing. Working? She gestured to the chair across from her. Sit. He did. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The office was quiet except for the hum of the heating system. "How's the new position?" Victoria asked. "Good. Really good, actually. Marcus says you're already making improvements. I'm just doing the job." "You're doing it well." She closed her laptop. "I'm glad it's working out." "Me too." Another silence, this one heavier. "We need to talk," Victoria said. "Yeah." She stood and crossed to the window, looking out at the city lights below. Adrian watched her reflection in the glass, the tired lines around her eyes, the tension in her shoulders. "I don't do this," she said finally. "I don't make impulsive decisions. I don't blur professional lines. And I certainly don't kiss employees in my kitchen during a power outage." "I know." "But I did. And now I have to figure out what that means." Adrian stood and moved closer. Not too close, just enough that he could see her face when she turned. "Does it have to mean anything?" he asked. "Yes, because I can't stop thinking about it." The admission hung between them. "I can't either," Adrian said. Victoria's breath caught. "This is impossible. You understand that, right? I'm your employer. There are power dynamics, HR policies, not to mention the fact that my entire reputation is built on control and competence. If anyone found out, then we don't let anyone find out." She turned to face him fully. "What are you suggesting?" "I don't know. I just know that walking away from this feels wrong." "And pursuing it doesn't?" "Yeah, it does. But at least it's honest." Victoria studied him. In the dim office light, she looked younger, more vulnerable. "I could ruin your life," she said softly. "You could, but you won't." "How do you know?" "Because you gave me a promotion instead of firing me. Because you're standing here telling me all the reasons this is a bad idea instead of just ending it. Because underneath all that control, you're just as lonely as I am." Her eyes flashed. "Don't psychoanalyze me. Then don't pretend you don't feel this." She moved faster than he expected, closing the distance between them, her hand gripping the front of his shirt. "You don't know what you're asking for," she said. "So tell me." Instead, she kissed him. This time it wasn't tentative or accidental. It was deliberate, hungry. Her mouth was demanding, her hands pulling him closer like she was trying to prove a point. Adrian kissed her back just as hard, his fingers tangling in her hair, pulling it free from the tight bun. She made a sound, half frustration, half need, and backed him against the desk. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Victoria's lipstick was smudged and her hair was a mess. "This is insane," she whispered. "Yeah. We can't do this here." "I know." She grabbed her coat and bag. "Follow me. Not in the same car. Give me 15 minutes. "Where?" She scribbled an address on a post-it note and shoved it into his hand. "There. Don't be late." Then she was gone. Adrian stood alone in her office, heart pounding, holding a crumpled post-it with an address in the Pearl District. He should go home, call his sister, pick up Emma, forget this ever happened. He got in his car and drove to the address instead. The building was a high-rise overlooking the river, modern, expensive, the kind of place that had a doorman and a valet. Adrian parked on the street and checked the address twice before heading inside. Victoria was waiting in the lobby. 20th floor, she said, handing him a keycard. They took separate elevators. When Adrian stepped out on the 20th floor, Victoria was already unlocking a door at the end of the hall. The apartment inside was smaller than her house, but just as pristine. Floor-to-ceiling windows, minimalist furniture, a view that probably cost more than Adrian would make in 5 years. "This is my pied-à-terre," Victoria said, setting down her bag. "I stay here when I work late. No one knows about it except my assistant." Adrian closed the door behind him. "Why are we here?" "Because if we're going to do this, whatever this is, we need privacy, rules, boundaries." "Okay, so what are the rules?" Victoria turned to face him. Her professional mask was back, but it was cracking at the edges. "No one can know. Not your coworkers, not your friends, not your family, especially not anyone at the company." "Agreed. This doesn't affect your job. You earned that promotion. It stays separate." "Fine. And if either of us wants to end it, we end it. No questions, no drama." Adrian stepped closer. "Anything else?" She met his eyes. "Don't fall in love with me." It should have been funny. It wasn't. I'll do my best, he said. This time when they kissed, it was slower, less frantic. Victoria's hand slid under his jacket, pushing it off his shoulders. Adrian backed her toward the couch, and she went willingly, pulling him down with her. They didn't make it to the bedroom. Afterward, they lay tangled together on the couch, the city lights glittering through the windows. Victoria's head was on Adrian's chest, her hair spilling across his shoulder. He traced patterns on her back, feeling her breathing slow. I have to pick up Emma, he said eventually. I know. She didn't move. Victoria. I know. She sat up, reaching for her blouse. Adrian watched her get dressed, the efficient movements, the way she smoothed her hair back into place. By the time she was finished, the CEO was back. The woman who'd been in his arms was gone. Same time next week? She asked. Yeah. Good. He left first. The drive to his sister's place took 20 minutes. Emma was half asleep on the couch when he arrived. Sorry I'm late, Adrian said. His sister, Jenna, 2 years older and infinitely more put together, gave him a look. You okay? You seem off. Just tired. Uh-huh. She didn't believe him, but she let it go. Emma was great. We made cookies. Thanks, Jen. He carried Emma to the car. She stirred, mumbling something about dinosaurs, and fell back asleep against his shoulder. On the drive home, Adrian tried to sort through what had just happened. He'd started an affair with his boss. A secret, impossible, probably doomed affair with a woman who'd explicitly told him not to fall in love with her. He was in so far over his head he couldn't see the surface anymore. The weeks that followed fell into a pattern. During the day, Adrian worked. He picked up Emma, helped with homework, made dinner, did all the normal dad things. Twice a week, sometimes 3, he met Victoria at the Pearl District apartment. They didn't talk about the future. They didn't talk about feelings. Mostly, they didn't talk at all. But sometimes, late at night, Victoria would tell him things. About growing up poor in Sacramento, clawing her way through business school on scholarships and spite. About building her company from nothing, making enemies along the way, learning that power meant loneliness. Adrian told her about Natalie. About the year of watching cancer eat away someone he loved. About the hollow feeling that never quite went away. About Emma's first day of kindergarten, when she'd looked so small walking into that building alone. You miss her, Victoria said one night. They were lying in bed, the sheets tangled around them. Natalie? Yeah, every day. What was she like? Adrian thought about it. Messy. She was messy in the best way, left coffee cups everywhere, forgot appointments, laughed too loud. She made everything feel less heavy. I would have liked her. She would have terrified you. Victoria smiled. Probably. They were quiet for a while. Do you ever regret it? Adrian asked. Choosing the company over everything else? Victoria's expression shifted. Every single day. So why not choose differently? Because I don't know how. She gestured vaguely at the space between them. This is the most honest I've been in years. And it's still a secret I'm keeping in a locked apartment no one knows about. We could change that. No, we couldn't. She sat up, pulling the sheet around her. The second anyone finds out, it becomes a story. CEO, sleeping with an employee she promoted. Never mind that you're good at your job. Never mind that this, whatever this is real. All they'll see is an abuse of power. Is that what you think this is? I think it doesn't matter what I think. Perception is reality. She looked at him. I won't do that to you. Or to Emma. Adrian reached for her hand. What if I don't care about perception? Then you're not thinking clearly. But she laced her fingers through his anyway. 2 months in, Marcus called Adrian into his office. You're doing great work, Marcus said. I'm recommending you for the senior coordinator position. It's opening up next quarter. Adrian felt a spike of anxiety. Wow, thank you. Don't thank me. You earned it. Just keep doing what you're doing. After the meeting, Adrian texted Victoria. We need to talk. She replied an hour later, Pearl District, 8 p.m. When he arrived, she was already there, pacing the apartment with a glass of wine. What's wrong? She asked. Marcus wants to promote me again. Victoria stopped. And that's a problem because people are going to notice. They're going to wonder why I'm moving up so fast. You're moving up because you're good at your job. I've been there 4 months, Victoria. That's not normal. She set down the wine glass. So, turn it down. I can't. We need the money. Emma's starting second grade next year, and the tuition, then take it. And let people wonder. You've earned this, Adrian. Don't sabotage yourself because you're afraid of what people might think. That's easy for you to say. You're not the one they'll call a charity case. No, they'll call me something much worse. She crossed her arms. If you think I haven't considered this, you're wrong. I know exactly what it looks like, but I also know you're the best person for that job. And if I let office politics dictate my decisions, I'm not doing my job. Adrian exhaled. This is getting complicated. It was always complicated. Yeah, but now it's... He stopped. People are starting to talk. Paul made a comment yesterday about how I must have friends in high places. Victoria's expression hardened. What did you say? Nothing, but he's not the only one. She was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was careful. Do you want to end this? No, do you? No. She moved closer. But we need to be smarter, more careful. Meaning? Meaning we stop meeting here so often. We don't text unless it's necessary. And you take that promotion because you've earned it, and you don't let anyone make you feel otherwise. Adrian pulled her close. This is going to blow up in our faces eventually. I know. And you're still willing to risk it? Victoria looked up at him. For once, the mask was completely gone. For this? Yes. They made it another month before the rumors started in earnest. Adrian first heard them in the break room. Two guys from shipping, talking in low voices that went silent when he walked in. Blake. Hey. They left. Adrian poured his coffee and tried to ignore the knot in his stomach. By the end of the week, it was everywhere. Whispered conversations that stopped when he approached. Looks from coworkers who used to be friendly. Someone left a printed article about workplace affairs on his desk. Marcus called him in on Friday. I need to ask you something, Marcus said, and I need you to be straight with me. Okay. Are you sleeping with Victoria Hale? Adrian's blood went cold. Why are you asking? Because half the office thinks you are, and the other half thinks you're getting promoted because of some other kind of favoritism. Either way, it's become a problem. I earned those promotions. I believe you, but belief doesn't matter when people are talking about filing complaints with HR. Adrian sat back. Who? Does it matter? Look, I like you. You're a good worker. But if there's any truth to this, there's not. The lie came out smoother than he expected. Marcus studied him. You sure? I'm sure. All right. But Adrian, be careful. Victoria Hale doesn't do anyone favors. If she's giving you opportunities, it's because you're useful to her. The second you're not, you're gone. Adrian left the office feeling like the walls were closing in. He texted Victoria. We have a problem. She called him 10 minutes later. What happened? He told her. All of it. When he finished, she was gone on it. Victoria? I'm here. I'm thinking. About what? About how to fix this. You can't fix this. People believe what they want to believe. Then we give them something else to believe. Her voice was sharp, decisive. I have a corporate expansion opportunity. Singapore. It's been on the table for months. I'm taking it. Adrian's heart stopped. What? I'm leaving Portland. For 6 months, maybe longer. Gets me out of the office, puts distance between us, and kills the rumors. You're leaving. It's the smart move. The smart move is ending this before it gets worse. I'm not ending this, Victoria said fiercely. I'm protecting it. There's a difference. Victoria. I leave in 2 weeks. We'll figure out the rest from there. She hung up before he could argue. Adrian sat in his car outside the warehouse, phone still in his hand, trying to process what had just happened. 2 weeks. She was leaving in 2 weeks. He drove to the Pearl District apartment. She was already there, suitcase half packed on the bed. You're serious, he said. Yes? And you didn't think to ask me first? This isn't about you, Adrian. It's about protecting both of us. And the company. Bullshit. This is about you running away before things get messy. Victoria spun to face him. Running away? I'm trying to save your career. Do you have any idea what will happen if HR starts investigating? They'll find out. And when they do, you'll lose everything. The job, the credibility, maybe even custody if Jenna decides you're too unstable. Don't bring Emma into this. She's already in this. Everything you do affects her. Or have you forgotten that while you've been sneaking around with me?" The words hit like a slap. Adrian stepped back. "That's not fair." "None of this is fair," Victoria's voice cracked. "You think I want to leave? You think I want to spend 6 months halfway around the world managing an expansion I could delegate to someone else? I'm doing this because it's the only way to protect what we have. We don't have anything if you're gone. Then we'll figure it out long distance." "That's not the same." "I know." She moved closer, her hands framing his face. "But it's what we've got." Adrian closed his eyes. "This is a mistake. Probably. But we're making it anyway." They spent the next 2 weeks pretending everything was fine. Adrian went to work, smiled at the right times, avoided the break room. Victoria prepared for her departure with ruthless efficiency. On her last night in Portland, they met at the apartment one final time. 6 months, Victoria said. "Then I'm back." "And then what?" "I don't know, but we'll figure it out." Adrian kissed her. It felt like goodbye. "Call me when you land." "I will." She left the next morning. Adrian found out from Marcus, who mentioned it casually over lunch. "Boss is headed to Singapore for the expansion. Guess that means we're stuck with Davidson running things." Adrian nodded like this was news. That night, Emma asked why he seemed sad. "Just tired, Bug." "You're always tired." "I know." She hugged him. "It's okay, Daddy. I love you anyway." Adrian held her tight and wondered what the hell he'd gotten himself into. Victoria's first call came at 3 a.m, Portland time. Adrian was half asleep on the couch when his phone buzzed, and he answered without thinking. "Hey, did I wake you?" Her voice sounded far away, tinny through the international connection. "No, well, yeah, but it's fine." He sat up, rubbing his face. "How's Singapore?" "Hot, crowded. Exactly what I expected." A pause. "I miss you." The words caught him off guard. Victoria didn't say things like that. "I miss you too." "How's Emma?" "Good. She lost another tooth. Made me put it under her pillow even though she knows I'm the tooth fairy." Victoria's laugh was soft. "Smart kid." "Yeah." Adrian leaned back against the couch. "How's the expansion going?" "Complicated. The local regulations are a nightmare, and our partners keep changing the terms. I've been in meetings for 12 hours straight. Sounds awful." "It is, but it's keeping me busy." Which is the point. Neither of them said what they were both thinking. That busy meant not thinking about what they'd left behind. They talked for another 20 minutes before Victoria had to go. After she hung up, Adrian lay in the dark and tried to remember what it felt like to have her next to him. The memory was already getting fuzzy around the edges. The calls became routine. Once a week at first, then twice, then nearly every day. They talked about work, about Emma, about nothing in particular. Victoria told him about the food markets and the humidity and the businessmen who didn't take her seriously until she made them. Adrian told her about Emma's school play and the broken dishwasher he couldn't afford to fix and the way Marcus had started giving him more responsibility. What they didn't talk about was the rumors. They died down after Victoria left, but they hadn't disappeared. People still watched Adrian a little too closely, whispered a little too quietly. Paul had been moved to a different shift, which Adrian suspected wasn't a coincidence. The new senior coordinator position had been put on hold indefinitely. "It's political," Marcus told him over coffee one morning. "Davidson doesn't want to rock the boat while Victoria's gone." "Makes sense. Doesn't make it fair." Marcus studied him. "You doing okay? You seem distracted lately." "Just tired." "You're always tired." Adrian forced a smile. Occupational hazard of single parenting. Marcus let it drop, but Adrian could tell he didn't quite believe it. The truth was, Adrian was barely holding it together. The long-distance thing was harder than he'd expected, not because they were fighting or growing apart, but because every conversation reminded him of what they couldn't have. Victoria was building an empire on the other side of the world, and he was packing lunches and checking homework and trying to pretend his life made sense. 6 weeks after Victoria left, Emma asked about her. They were having dinner, spaghetti, Emma's favorite, when she set down her fork and looked at him with those too observant eyes. "Daddy, who's Victoria?" Adrian nearly choked on his water. What? Victoria, you said her name last night when you were on the phone. She's my boss. Well, she was. She's working in another country right now. Oh. Emma twirled spaghetti around her fork. Do you like her? She's fine. Why? Because you smile different when you talk to her. Adrian's heart hammered. I smile the same all the time, Bug. Nuh-uh. With her you smile like you do in the pictures with Mommy. He didn't know what to say to that. Emma went back to eating like she hadn't just gutted him with a single observation. That night when Victoria called, he told her. She noticed. Of course she did. Kids notice everything. Victoria sounded tired. What did you tell her? That you're my boss, which is true. Technically, Adrian, we talked about this. No one can know, especially not Emma. I know, but lying to her feels wrong. So does putting her in the middle of something she's too young to understand. Victoria's voice softened. I'm not trying to be cruel. I'm trying to protect all of us. I know, He stopped. I hate this. The sneaking around, the half-truths. It's not who I want to be. Then what do you want? The question hung in the air between them, 8,000 miles of fiber optic cable carrying words that mattered too much to say out loud. I want you here, Adrian said finally. I know, 3 more months. And then what? You come back and we keep hiding? We'll figure it out. That's not an answer. Victoria was quiet for a long moment. No, it's not. They didn't talk for 2 days after that. When she finally called again, it was with news. The board wants me to extend the Singapore project. Another 6 months, maybe a year. Adrian felt the bottom drop out of his stomach. What did you tell them? I told them I'd think about it. Victoria, I know. But this is a huge opportunity. If I pull this off, it positions the company for expansion into the entire Asia-Pacific market. That's billions in revenue. And if you say no, then someone else does it. And I come home to the same mess we left behind. Adrian sat down heavily on the couch. So what are you saying? That you're staying? I'm saying I don't know. I need time to think. How much time? I have to give them an answer by the end of the week. 4 days. She had 4 days to decide whether to come home or stay on the other side of the world indefinitely. Do I get a say in this? Adrian asked. Of course you do. Then come home. Silence. Victoria, come home. It's not that simple. It is exactly that simple. You either choose this, us, or you choose the company. You can't have both. Why not? Her voice was sharp now. You're asking me to give up everything I've built. My career, my reputation, my entire life's work? For what? A relationship we can't even acknowledge publicly? For something real, for someone who actually sees you, not just what you can do for them. That's not fair. None of this is fair. But I'm tired of pretending it doesn't matter. Adrian stood, pacing the small living room. I love you, Victoria. I'm in love with you. And I know you told me not to, but I did anyway. So you need to decide if that means anything to you, or if I'm just another thing you're managing from a distance. The words were out before he could take them back. He waited, heart pounding, for her response. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. You shouldn't love me. Too late. Adrian, do you love me? Another silence, longer this time. Yes. Something in his chest cracked open. Then come home. I can't. Not yet. There's too much at stake. More than us? It's not about more or less. It's about responsibility. I have 3,000 employees depending on me, investors, partners. I can't just walk away because you're in love with me? Because I'm scared, she said, and her voice broke. I'm terrified. Because every time I've let myself want something beyond work, I've lost it. And you and Emma, you matter too much. If I come home now and it falls apart, if the rumors destroy both our careers and Emma gets hurt in the crossfire, I'll never forgive myself. Adrian sank back onto the couch. So you're staying? For now. But I promise you I'm coming back. Just give me time to do this right. How much time? 6 months? Maybe less? I'll wrap up the expansion, put the right people in place, and come home. And when I do, we'll figure out how to make this work. Publicly. Honestly. Whatever it takes. Adrian wanted to believe her. He wanted to believe that she'd actually come back, that she'd choose him over the empire she'd built from nothing. But he'd learned a long time ago that wanting something didn't make it true. Okay, he said. Okay, 6 months. But Victoria? If you're not back by then, I'm done. I understand. They talked for a few more minutes, neither of them saying what they both knew, that 6 months might as well be forever. After they hung up, Adrian sat in the dark apartment and tried to figure out how he'd gotten here. A year ago, he'd been barely scraping by, focused on nothing but keeping Emma safe and fed and happy. Now he was in love with a billionaire halfway around the world, lying to everyone including his daughter, waiting for a future that might never come. Emma padded out of her bedroom, rubbing her eyes. Daddy? Why are you still up? Just thinking, Bug. Come here. She climbed onto the couch and curled up against him. Adrian wrapped his arms around her, breathing in the kid smell of shampoo and sleep. Love you, Emma. Love you too. She yawned. Is everything okay? Yeah, everything's fine. Another lie. He was getting good at them. The next morning, Adrian got a call from HR. Mr. Blake? This is Jennifer from Human Resources. We need you to come in for a meeting. His stomach dropped. When? This afternoon, 2 o'clock. Please bring any documentation related to your employment history and recent promotions. Can I ask what this is about? We'll discuss it during the meeting. See you at 2. She hung up before he could ask anything else. Adrian called Marcus. Did HR call you? Yeah, 20 minutes ago. They're calling in everyone who's been promoted in the last 6 months. Marcus sounded grim. Someone filed a formal complaint. About what? Favoritism. Specifically, they're alleging that Victoria Hale showed preferential treatment to certain employees for personal reasons. They're investigating the rumors. Looks like it. Listen, Adrian, I don't know what your situation is, and I don't want to. But if there's anything you need to get ahead of, now's the time. Adrian hung up and immediately tried calling Victoria. It went to voicemail. Call me. It's urgent. She called back 15 minutes later. What's wrong? He told her. When he finished, she swore, something he'd never heard her do before. I'll handle it, she said. How? Leave that to me. Don't say anything in the meeting. Be professional, answer their questions honestly, but don't volunteer information. Victoria, if they ask directly whether we're involved, then you tell them no, because officially, we're not. We're not dating. We're not in a relationship. We had a brief personal interaction that ended months ago. That's the truth, legally speaking. That's splitting hairs. That's how you survive an HR investigation. Trust me. The meeting was worse than Adrian expected. 2 HR representatives, a lawyer he'd never seen before, and Davidson, Victoria's second-in-command, sitting in cold judgment. They asked about his promotions, his qualifications, his interactions with Victoria. Every question was carefully worded, designed to trap him into admitting something he couldn't take back. Did Ms. Hale ever make advances toward you? No. Did you ever have a personal relationship with Ms. Hale outside of work? Adrian thought about the Pearl District apartment, the late-night calls, the way she'd looked at him in the dark. We had dinner once. Her car broke down and I gave her a ride home. That's it. And the promotions you received shortly after this dinner, you don't find the timing suspicious? I find it irrelevant. I earned those positions based on my work performance. Marcus Chen can verify that. They grilled him for 45 minutes before finally letting him go. Adrian walked out feeling like he'd been scraped raw. Marcus caught him in the hallway. How bad? I don't know. They're fishing. For what? Adrian shook his head. Doesn't matter. I didn't give them anything. But he could see it in Marcus's eyes, the doubt, the reassessment. Whatever trust they'd built over the past months was cracking. That night, Emma had a nightmare. She woke up screaming, and by the time Adrian got to her room, she was crying so hard she couldn't breathe. Hey, I'm here. You're okay. I dreamed you left. She clutched his shirt. Like Mommy, you just disappeared. Adrian's throat tightened. I'm not going anywhere, Bug. I promise. You promise? I promise. He sat with her until she fell back asleep, then went to his own room and called Victoria. I can't do this anymore. Adrian, no, listen to me. I just lied to HR about us. I'm lying to my daughter. I'm lying to everyone I work with. And for what? So we can have phone calls and stolen moments and a relationship that only exists in secret? We talked about this. 6 months. 6 months is too long. Emma's falling apart. I'm falling apart. And you're 8,000 miles away building something that matters more to you than I do. That's not true. Then prove it. Come home. Now. Not in 6 months. Now. Victoria's breath hitched. I can't. Then we're done. The silence that followed felt like the end of something. You don't mean that, Victoria said finally. I do. Because I love you. And love isn't supposed to feel like this. It's not supposed to be all sacrifice and secrets and waiting for someday. Emma deserves better. I deserve better. Adrian, please. I have to go. Emma needs me. He hung up before she could say anything else. For 3 days, Victoria didn't call. Adrian threw himself into being present for Emma, helping with homework, making elaborate breakfasts, taking her to the park even though it was cold and drizzling. She seemed happier, more settled. He felt like he was drowning. On the 4th day, Marcus pulled him aside. They're wrapping up the investigation. Word is they didn't find anything concrete, but Davidson's pushing to rescind your promotions anyway. Politics. When? End of the week, probably. I'm sorry, man. I tried to fight it. It's fine. I appreciate you trying. But it wasn't fine. None of it was fine. That night, Adrian's phone rang. Unknown number. Singapore country code. He almost didn't answer. Hello? It's me. Don't hang up. Victoria's voice was different, rougher, like she'd been crying. I'm flying home, she said. I land tomorrow night. Adrian's heart stopped. What? I'm coming home. I told the board I'm delegating the Singapore expansion. It cost me... They're furious. I'll probably lose my position as CEO within 6 months, but I don't care. You were right. I can't choose the company over you. I won't. Victoria, I'm not done. When I get back, I'm going to HR myself. I'm going to tell them everything, that we're together, that it started before your promotions but had nothing to do with them, and that if they want to fire me or you or both of us, they can do it with full knowledge of the facts. They'll destroy you. Maybe. Probably. But I'm tired of being afraid, and I'm tired of choosing fear over the one real thing I have. Her voice cracked. I love you, Adrian. I'm in love with you, and I want a life that includes you and Emma, even if it means losing everything else. Adrian couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. Say something, Victoria whispered. What time do you land? 8 p.m., Thursday. I'll be there. You don't have to... I'll be there. Thursday night, Adrian left Emma with Jenna and drove to the airport. He parked in short term and waited at arrivals, watching the board for her flight information. The plane landed at 8:15. Passengers started trickling out 20 minutes later. Businessmen in suits, families with strollers, college kids with backpacks. Then he saw her. Victoria looked exhausted. Her hair was pulled back in a messy bun, her clothes rumpled from the long flight. She had 2 bags and dark circles under her eyes. When she spotted him, she stopped. They stared at each other across the crowded terminal. Then Adrian crossed to her, took her face in his hands, and kissed her. Right there in the middle of PDX arrivals, with 100 strangers watching, he kissed her like he'd been wanting to for months. When they broke apart, Victoria was crying. I'm here, she said. I'm really here. I know. I'm scared. Me too. She laughed, a wet, broken sound. What happens now? I don't know, but we'll figure it out. They collected her bags and walked to the parking garage. On the drive back to the city, Victoria told him about the board meeting, the screaming match with her investors, the moment she'd realized that none of it mattered if she lost him. They're going to vote me out, she said, probably within the month. And you're okay with that? I don't know. Ask me in 6 months. She looked at him. Where are we going? My place. Unless you want to go to your house. Your place. I want to meet Emma. Properly, I mean, if that's okay. Adrian's hands tightened on the wheel. Are you sure? No, but I want to anyway. They picked up Emma from Jenna's. Adrian's sister took one look at Victoria and raised her eyebrows. This is Victoria. Adrian said. Victoria, my sister Jenna. The boss, Jenna said slowly. Former boss, Victoria corrected, and Adrian's girlfriend, if that's the right word. Jenna looked at Adrian. He nodded. Holy hell, Jenna muttered. Okay, Emma's asleep on the couch. Try not to wake her when you carry her out. At the apartment, Adrian carried Emma to her room while Victoria waited in the living room. When he came back, she was standing by the window, arms crossed, looking out at the city. Nice view, she said. Liar. She smiled. Okay, it's terrible, but I like it anyway. Adrian moved behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. She leaned back against him. I don't know how to do this, she admitted. The domestic thing. I've spent my entire adult life avoiding it. Then we'll learn together. What if I'm bad at it? Then you'll be bad at it, and we'll figure it out anyway. Victoria turned in his arms. I meant what I said, about going to HR, about making this public. I know, but there's something you should know first. He took a breath. They're already investigating. Someone filed a complaint about favoritism. They questioned me last week. Her face went pale. What did you tell them? That we had dinner once, that I earned my promotions. Nothing else. So you lied. Yeah. Victoria closed her eyes. Then I need to go in tomorrow and tell the truth, before they find out another way. They might fire both of us. I know, but at least we'll go down honest. She cupped his face. I'm done hiding, Adrian. Whatever happens, we face it together. Together, he repeated. They stood like that for a long moment, holding each other in the small apartment, the city lights glittering outside, both of them knowing that tomorrow everything might fall apart. But for tonight, they had this, and it was enough. Part 4. Victoria stayed that night. And the next. By the third morning, there was a toothbrush in Adrian's bathroom and a coffee mug with her name on it in the kitchen cabinet. Emma noticed but didn't comment, which Adrian took as tacit approval. They moved carefully around each other, learning the rhythms of cohabitation in Adrian's cramped apartment. Victoria worked from the couch while Adrian was at the warehouse. Conference calls conducted in hushed tones so she wouldn't wake Emma. Adrian came home to find her cooking dinner, badly but earnestly, and they'd eat together at the small table, knees bumping underneath. It felt temporary and permanent at the same time, like they were playing house while waiting for the real world to catch up. The real world caught up on Monday. Adrian was in the middle of a logistics meeting when his phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. He ignored it until the meeting ended, then checked. A screenshot, an article from a Portland business blog. Victoria Hale spotted at local apartment complex. Has the CEO moved on? Below it, a grainy photo of Victoria leaving Adrian's building, coffee cup in hand, wearing the same clothes from the day before. His stomach dropped. Marcus saw his expression. You okay? Yeah, I need to make a call. He stepped into the hallway and dialed Victoria. She answered on the first ring. I saw it. How bad? It's speculation right now, but someone's watching us. Or watching you. She sounded calm, but Adrian could hear the edge underneath. I'm calling my lawyer, and I think it's time we had that conversation with HR. Today? Today, before someone else controls the narrative. Adrian closed his eyes. Okay. What time? I'll set it up for this afternoon, 3 o'clock. Victoria, we knew this was coming. We just have to face it. The meeting was scheduled for 3:30, not 3. Adrian spent the intervening hours trying to work while his mind spun in circles. What would they say? What would the consequences be? Would they both lose their jobs? And if they did, what then? At 3:15, his phone rang. Victoria. Don't come to the office. What? Why? Because Davidson just called an emergency board meeting. Someone leaked our relationship to the board before we could disclose it ourselves. Her voice was tight. They're discussing my removal. Right now. Adrian felt the floor shift beneath him. They can't just fire you. You own the company. I own the majority shares, but the board can vote me out as CEO if they determine I violated fiduciary duty, which they're arguing I did by promoting someone I was personally involved with. But you didn't. I earned those positions. It doesn't matter. The optics are bad enough. And Davidson's been waiting for an opportunity like this for years. She exhaled slowly. I need to go in there and fight this. But I need you to stay away. If you show up, it'll make it worse. So I just sit here and do nothing? You pick up Emma from school, you take her home. You keep her safe and away from this mess. Her voice softened. Please, Adrian, I need to know she's okay. He wanted to argue, wanted to storm into that boardroom and tell them all to go to hell. But she was right. Emma came first. Okay, but call me after. I will. She hung up. Adrian stared at his phone for a long moment, then grabbed his jacket and left. Emma's school let out at 3:45. Adrian was waiting in the pickup line 15 minutes early, hands gripping the steering wheel, trying to look normal. When Emma climbed into the back seat, she took one look at his face. What's wrong? Nothing, Bug. You're lying. 7 years old, and she could already see through him. Adrian pulled out of the parking lot before answering. Victoria's having a hard day at work, grown-up stuff. Is she in trouble? Maybe, but she's tough. She'll figure it out. Emma was quiet for a moment. Is it because of us? Adrian's heart clenched. What do you mean? Because she's your girlfriend, and people think that's bad? He should have known she'd piece it together. Emma was too smart for her own good. Some people think it's complicated, Adrian said carefully, because I work for her company. But we didn't do anything wrong, okay? Sometimes people just make things harder than they need to be. That's stupid. Yeah, Bug. It is. They stopped for ice cream on the way home. Vanilla for Adrian, chocolate chip for Emma, and sat in the car eating it while the rain started up again. Emma talked about her day, something about a boy named Tyler still eating paste, and a girl named Mia who could do a cartwheel. Adrian listened and tried not to check his phone every 30 seconds. Victoria finally called at 6:15. Adrian was making dinner, grilled cheese and tomato soup, Emma's comfort food, when his phone buzzed. He stepped into the bedroom to answer. How bad? Victoria's laugh was hollow. Bad. They voted to suspend me pending a full investigation, effective immediately. They suspended you. Davidson's interim CEO. I'm not allowed in the building until the investigation concludes, which could take weeks. She paused. I walked out of my own company, Adrian. Security escorted me to my car. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. Don't be. This isn't your fault. It feels like it is. Well, it's not. This is Davidson seizing an opportunity and a board that's been looking for a reason to clip my wings for years. Her voice hardened. But I'm not done fighting. I have lawyers, I have documentation, and I have every email, every performance review, every piece of evidence that shows your promotions were merit-based. What if it's not enough? Then I lose the company, and I figure out what comes next. Adrian sat down on the bed. What do you need from me? Can I come over? Of course. I'll be there in 20 minutes. When Victoria arrived, she looked exhausted. Her hair was down, her makeup smudged, her suit jacket creased. She walked into the apartment and went straight to Adrian, burying her face against his shoulder. He held her, didn't say anything, just held her while Emma watched from the kitchen doorway, uncertain. Finally, Victoria pulled back. She saw Emma and tried to smile. Hey, hi. Emma came closer. Daddy said you had a bad day. Yeah, I did. Do you want some soup? We made extra. Victoria's expression cracked. I'd like that. Thank you. They ate dinner together at the small table. Emma did most of the talking, filling the silence with second-grade drama and dinosaur facts. Victoria listened, asked questions, acted like her world hadn't just imploded. After dinner, Emma asked Victoria to read her a bedtime story. Victoria looked at Adrian, who nodded. Go ahead, I'll clean up. He washed dishes while Victoria and Emma disappeared into the bedroom. Their voices drifted through the thin walls. Emma's bright and curious, Victoria's soft and steady. When the apartment finally went quiet, Adrian dried his hands and went to check on them. Emma was asleep, curled up with Steve the rabbit. Victoria was sitting on the edge of the bed, one hand stroking Emma's hair. She's incredible, Victoria whispered. Yeah, how do you do it? Raise her alone, work full-time, and still make it look easy. It doesn't feel easy. But you do it anyway. Adrian leaned against the door frame. Because I don't have a choice. She needs me, so I figure it out. Victoria stood carefully, not wanting to wake Emma. They moved to the living room and she collapsed onto the couch. I don't know how to do this, she said. Fail. Lose. I've spent my entire life building things, controlling outcomes, and now, she gestured helplessly, now I'm suspended from my own company and there's nothing I can do but wait. Adrian sat beside her. So you wait, and you trust that the truth will come out. What if it doesn't? Then you built one company. You can build another. She looked at him. You really believe that? Yeah. Because you're Victoria Hale. You're the woman who started with nothing and turned it into an empire. Losing the title doesn't change who you are. It feels like it does. That's because you've tied your whole identity to it. But you're more than a CEO, Victoria. You're smart and driven and... He stopped. You're someone worth knowing even without the company. Her eyes filled. You don't know what you're talking about. Maybe not. But I know what I see when I look at you, and it's not a job title. She kissed him, desperate and raw, like she was trying to believe him through sheer force of will. When they broke apart, she rested her forehead against his. I'm scared, she whispered. I know. What if I lose everything? Then you'll still have this. Me and Emma, and this terrible apartment with the broken dishwasher. He smiled. Not much, but it's yours if you want it. I want it. Good. They stayed like that for a while, holding each other in the dim living room while the rain hammered the windows. Eventually, Victoria pulled back. I should go. Let you get some sleep. Stay. Adrian, stay. The couch pulls out. Or you can take my bed. Either way, stay. She hesitated, then nodded. Okay. They made up the pull-out couch together, finding sheets that almost matched and a pillow that wasn't too flat. Victoria changed into one of Adrian's t-shirts. It hung to her knees and climbed under the covers. Adrian started to leave, but she caught his hand. Thank you. For what? For not running. Most people would have by now. I'm not most people. No, you're not. He kissed her forehead and went to his own room. But sleep didn't come easy. He lay awake thinking about what tomorrow would bring, and the day after, and all the days that followed. Thinking about how quickly everything could fall apart and how fragile the life they were trying to build really was. The next morning, Victoria was gone before Emma woke up. She'd left a note on the kitchen counter. Had to meet with lawyers. Thank you for last night. V. Adrian made breakfast and got Emma ready for school. On the drive, Emma asked the question he'd been dreading. Is Victoria going to keep coming over? I think so. Would that be okay with you? Emma thought about it. Does she make you happy? Yeah, Bug, she does. Then it's okay. She paused. I like her. She's not good at reading stories, but she tries hard. Adrian smiled. She does try hard. And she makes you smile the way you used to with Mommy. The observation hit him square in the chest. He thought he was hiding it better than that. Yeah, he said quietly. She does. Good. You should smile more. At work, the atmosphere was toxic. People stopped talking when Adrian walked into a room. Someone had left a printed article about executive misconduct on his desk. Marcus pulled him aside before lunch. Davidson's doing interviews about Victoria's conduct as CEO. They're building a case for permanent removal. On what grounds? Abuse of power, favoritism, misuse of company resources. Marcus lowered his voice. They're going to argue that she used her position to benefit you financially and professionally. And they're going to call you as a witness. When? Friday? You'll get official notice today. Adrian's stomach turned. They want me to testify against her. They want you to tell the truth. How you spin it is up to you. There's nothing to spin. She didn't do anything wrong. Marcus looked skeptical. Adrian, she promoted you twice in 6 months while you were sleeping together. Even if your work justified it, the appearance is damning. So what? I should lie to save face? I'm saying you should think carefully about what you say, because whatever comes out of that room on Friday will follow both of you for the rest of your careers. The official notice came via email at 2 p.m. Adrian was required to appear before the board's investigative committee on Friday at 10 a.m. to answer questions regarding his professional relationship with Victoria Hale. He called her immediately. They're making me testify. I know, my lawyer warned me this morning. She sounded tired. What are you going to say? The truth, which is that I earned my positions, that you never treated me differently than anyone else at work, that our personal relationship didn't start until after the first promotion and had nothing to do with the second one. They won't believe you. I don't care. Victoria was quiet for a moment. Adrian, if you defend me in there, it's going to cost you. Davidson will make sure of it. You could lose your job, your reputation, everything you've worked for. And if I don't defend you, I lose my integrity, which is worth more than a job. You have a daughter to think about. I know. And I want her to grow up knowing her father doesn't throw people under the bus to save himself. He paused. I'm testifying, Victoria, and I'm telling the truth. What they do with it is their problem. She exhaled slowly. Okay, then I'll be there. You can't. You're suspended. I can attend as an interested party. My lawyer confirmed it. If you're going in there alone, so am I. Friday morning arrived too fast. Adrian dropped Emma off at Jenna's. She'd agreed to keep her for the day without asking too many questions, and drove to the Hale Logistics headquarters. Victoria was waiting in the lobby, dressed in a sharp navy suit, her lawyer beside her. Ready? She asked. No. Good. Neither am I. They rode the elevator to the executive floor in silence. The conference room was smaller than Adrian expected, but just as intimidating. The investigative committee consisted of 5 board members, including Davidson, plus 2 lawyers and a court reporter. Adrian took the seat across from them. Victoria and her lawyer sat in the back. Davidson spoke first. Mr. Blake, thank you for coming. We have some questions regarding your employment history and relationship with Ms. Hale. I understand. Let's start with the night of November 8th. You gave Ms. Hale a ride home from work. Is that correct? Yes. And what happened during that drive? Adrian kept his voice steady. Her car had broken down. I drove her to her house in West Hills. The gate wasn't working, so she invited me inside to wait for maintenance. We talked. The power went out during the storm, and I stayed until it was safe to drive. Then I left. That's all? That's all. One of the other board members leaned forward. Did anything of a personal nature occur between you and Ms. Hale that night? Adrian glanced at Victoria. Her expression was unreadable. We had a conversation, a personal one, about our lives outside of work. Did you engage in any physical contact? I don't see how that's relevant to my job performance. Davidson's smile was cold. Answer the question, Mr. Blake. Adrian's jaw tightened. Yes, we kissed. Once, at the end of the night. The room shifted. The lawyers exchanged glances. The court reporter's fingers flew across the keyboard. And when did your relationship become sexual? Davidson pressed. Again, I don't see how that's relevant. It's relevant because 3 weeks after that night, you received your first promotion. We're trying to establish whether that promotion was earned or, shall we say, incentivized. I earned it. Adrian's voice hardened. I increased efficiency in my department by 40%. I identified cost-saving measures that saved the company hundreds of thousands of dollars. Marcus Chen recommended me for the position based on merit, and you can verify that with him. We already have. Mr. Chen confirms your work was exemplary, but he also confirms that Ms. Hale had final approval on the promotion, and that she approved it unusually quickly. Because I was qualified, or because you were sleeping with her. Adrian stood up. I'm done here. Sit down, Mr. Blake. No, you're not interested in the truth. You're building a case to justify removing Victoria from a company she built from scratch, and you're using me to do it. He looked at Davidson. I earned every promotion I received. My performance reviews prove it. The metrics prove it. And if you can't see that, it's because you don't want to. He walked out. Victoria followed, her lawyer scrambling to keep up. In the elevator, she grabbed his arm. That was either really brave or really stupid. Probably both. They're going to fire you. I know. The elevator doors opened. They stepped out into the lobby, and Victoria's lawyer cleared her throat. I need to make some calls. I'll meet you outside. She disappeared. Adrian and Victoria stood in the empty lobby, facing each other. I'm sorry, Adrian said. I should have kept my cool in there. No, you should have done exactly what you did. Victoria's eyes were bright. No one's ever defended me like that. Not my investors, not my board, not anyone. They all care about what I can do for them. But you stood up for me even when it cost you everything. It hasn't cost me everything yet. It will. Then we'll deal with it. She kissed him, right there in the lobby of Hale Logistics, with security cameras recording and God knows who watching. She kissed him like she was staking a claim. When they broke apart, Adrian was breathless. What was that for? For being exactly who you are, even when it's inconvenient. They left the building together. Victoria's lawyer was waiting by her car, phone pressed to her ear. When she saw them, she hung up. The committee's made a decision. They're voting to permanently remove you as CEO and terminate Mr. Blake's employment. Both effective immediately. Victoria nodded slowly. When? The vote's happening now. You'll have official notice within the hour. Okay. Victoria looked at Adrian. Okay. They stood in the parking lot while the rain started up again. Both of them freshly unemployed, both of them facing an uncertain future. Adrian laughed. He couldn't help it. The absurdity of it all, losing everything because they'd been honest, was too much. Victoria stared at him. Why are you laughing? Because 6 months ago, I was loading boxes in a warehouse for minimum wage. And now I'm unemployed because I fell in love with a billionaire. It's insane. She started laughing too. It really is. They stood there in the rain, laughing like idiots, while their lives fell apart around them. And somehow, impossibly, it felt like freedom. Victoria showed up to the HR meeting at 9 in the morning wearing jeans and a sweater instead of her usual suit. Adrian met her in the lobby, and they walked in together. Jennifer from HR looked surprised to see them both. Davidson looked annoyed. Ms. Hale, we weren't expecting you back until next month. Change of plans. Victoria sat down across from them, and Adrian took the seat beside her. I'm here to provide clarity on the favoritism investigation. Jennifer exchanged a glance with Davidson. We've already conducted our interviews. I know. And I'm here to tell you that your investigation is based on incomplete information. Victoria folded her hands on the table. Her voice was steady, but Adrian could see the tension in her shoulders. Adrian Blake and I are in a relationship. We have been for approximately 7 months. It began after I offered him a ride home during a storm, and it continued while I was in Singapore. The room went silent. Davidson leaned forward. You're telling us you've been involved with an employee you directly promoted, twice. Yes. And you didn't think to disclose this? I should have. I was wrong not to, but I want to be clear about the timeline. Victoria pulled out a folder and slid it across the table. These are Adrian's performance reviews conducted by Marcus Chen. You'll see that every promotion he received was based on documented merit. His work output increased by 40% in his first month as logistics coordinator. He identified cost-saving measures that saved the company nearly $200,000. The senior coordinator position was recommended by Marcus, not by me. Jennifer opened the folder, scanning the documents. That doesn't change the appearance of impropriety, Davidson said. No, it doesn't, which is why I'm formally recusing myself from any future decisions regarding Adrian's employment. I'm also submitting my resignation as CEO, effective immediately. Adrian's head snapped toward her. What? I've already drafted the letter. The board will receive it this afternoon. Victoria didn't look at him. This company deserves leadership that isn't compromised by personal relationships. And I deserve a life that isn't defined solely by this job. Davidson sat back, clearly thrown. You're resigning? Yes. I'll stay on in a consulting capacity for 90 days to ensure a smooth transition, but I'm stepping down from executive leadership. Jennifer cleared her throat. Ms. Hale, that seems extreme. We can implement oversight protocols. I don't want protocols. I want out. Victoria's voice was firm. I built this company from nothing, and I'm proud of what it's become. But I'm not willing to sacrifice my personal life to maintain it. Someone else can carry it forward. And Mr. Blake's employment? That's between you and him, but I expect it to be evaluated on his actual job performance, not on his relationship with me. She stood. If you have further questions, my lawyer will be in touch. Otherwise, I consider this matter closed. She walked out. Adrian scrambled to follow her. Victoria, wait. She kept walking until they reached the parking garage. When she finally stopped, she was shaking. Did you mean that? Adrian asked. About resigning? Every word. You're giving up your company. For me, I'm giving up control. There's a difference. She turned to face him. I'll still own the majority shares. I'll still have influence. But I won't be the one making daily decisions. And I won't be the one living in that office 18 hours a day. She took his hands. I'm choosing a different kind of life. One that includes you and Emma and maybe, eventually, something that looks like a family. Adrian pulled her close. You're sure? Terrified, but yes. What happens now? Now we deal with the fallout. The board's going to lose their minds. The press is going to have a field day. Your coworkers are going to feel vindicated in every rumor they ever spread. She rested her forehead against his. It's going to be ugly. I know. And you're okay with that? Adrian thought about it. About the looks he'd get, the comments, the way people would always wonder if he'd earned his position or slept his way into it. He thought about Emma and how she'd handle having her dad's relationship splashed across Portland business news. No, he said honestly. I'm not okay with it, but I'm okay with you. And that's more important. Victoria kissed him, soft and slow, right there in the parking garage where anyone could see. When they broke apart, she was smiling. Take me home. Your home. I want to have breakfast with Emma. They stopped at a grocery store on the way and bought ingredients for pancakes. Emma was awake when they got to the apartment, watching cartoons in her dinosaur pajamas. Daddy! She looked at Victoria. Hi. Hi, Emma. I'm Victoria. Emma studied her with those two observant eyes. You're the one who makes Daddy smile different. Victoria glanced at Adrian, who shrugged helplessly. I guess I am, Victoria said. Is that okay? Emma considered this. Can you make pancakes? I can try. Okay then. It was the most Emma logic approval Adrian had ever witnessed, and somehow it felt more significant than any board meeting or HR investigation. They made pancakes together. Victoria was terrible at it, burning the first 3 and under-seasoning the batter. Emma found this hilarious. Adrian watched them from the kitchen table, something warm and unfamiliar settling in his chest. This was what he'd been fighting for without knowing it. After breakfast, Emma asked Victoria to play dinosaurs. They spent an hour on the living room floor with plastic toys, Emma narrating elaborate scenarios while Victoria gamely played along. Adrian did the dishes and tried not to think about how easily she fit into their small, chaotic life. When Emma went to her room to get dressed, Victoria came to the kitchen. She's amazing. Yeah, she is. She looks like you. She acts like her mother. Victoria leaned against the counter. Are you going to tell her about us? Eventually, when the dust settles a little. He dried his hands. What about you? What's your plan? I have some calls to make. The board, my lawyer, and I need to figure out what comes next. She paused. I've been thinking about starting something new, smaller, maybe a consulting firm or angel investing, something that doesn't require 80-hour weeks. That sounds good. It sounds terrifying. I've been CEO for 15 years. I don't know who I am without that title. So you'll figure it out, same as the rest of us. She smiled. The rest of us. I like that. The news broke 2 days later. Not from HR, they were legally bound to confidentiality, but from someone at the company who'd seen Victoria and Adrian leaving together. By Monday morning, it was on 3 Portland business blogs and making the rounds on social media. Billionaire CEO resigns after relationship with employee revealed. Victoria Hale steps down amid favoritism scandal. Power, promotion, and personal relationships inside the Hale logistics controversy. Adrian's phone blew up with messages. His sister called 4 times before he answered. Are you insane? Jenna demanded. Probably. Adrian, this is everywhere. Emma's going to see this at school. I know, I'm handling it. How exactly are you handling it? By telling her the truth. That I'm dating someone I work with, and some people think that's wrong, but we're doing our best. Jenna was quiet for a moment. You really love her. Yeah. Okay. Then I've got your back, but you owe me details. All of them. At work, things were worse. People stared, whispered. Paul cornered Adrian in the break room. So it was true, all of it. Yeah. You're a piece of work, Blake, sleeping your way to the top. Adrian's jaw tightened. I earned my positions. Check the records. Records can be faked when you're banging the boss. Adrian stepped closer. Say that again. You heard me. Marcus appeared in the doorway. Paul, walk away. Paul sneered but left. Marcus waited until he was gone before speaking. You good? No, but I will be. For what it's worth, I believe you. About earning your promotions. The numbers don't lie. Marcus clapped him on the shoulder. But this is going to follow you for a while. People are going to assume the worst. Let them. You're tougher than I gave you credit for. Adrian went back to his desk and tried to focus on work. It was impossible. Every email felt weighted, every interaction tinged with judgment. At lunch, Victoria called. How bad is it? About what I expected. You? The board accepted my resignation. They're already interviewing replacements. Davidson's the front runner. She sounded tired. My lawyer says we're clear legally. The relationship started before any promotions were finalized, and there's documented evidence of your merit. But the court of public opinion is less forgiving. Are you okay? I don't know. I keep waiting to feel regret, but all I feel is relief. She paused. I'm coming over tonight, if that's okay? More than okay. That evening, Victoria showed up with Chinese takeout and a bag of Emma's favorite candy. Emma was delighted. They ate on the living room floor and watched a nature documentary about dinosaurs. Halfway through, Emma curled up against Victoria's side. You're staying, right? Emma asked. Victoria looked at Adrian. He nodded. Yeah, Bug, I'm staying. The weeks that followed were a crash course in building something real from the wreckage of what they'd tried to hide. Victoria moved out of her West Hills mansion and into a smaller house in southeast Portland. Still nice, but closer to Adrian's apartment, closer to Emma's school. She consulted with her lawyer about custody arrangements, should things get serious enough that Emma needed legal protection. Adrian stayed at his job despite the rumors, despite Paul's constant needling. He kept his head down, did good work, and ignored the whispers. Marcus promoted him to senior coordinator 3 months later, and this time no one could question whether he'd earned it. Victoria started her consulting firm. She took on 3 clients, worked reasonable hours, and came home for dinner most nights. She was terrible at cooking but got better. Emma taught her how to braid hair. Adrian taught her how to let go of needing to control everything. It wasn't smooth. They fought about money. Victoria wanted to help with expenses. Adrian wanted to maintain independence. They fought about Emma's schooling, about whose family to visit for holidays, about Victoria's tendency to solve every problem like it was a business negotiation. But they also laughed. They built routines. They learned each other's rhythms. 6 months after Victoria resigned, the board voted Davidson in as the new CEO. Victoria attended the announcement party and smiled through the whole thing. Afterward, she came home and cried in Adrian's arms. I thought I'd be okay with it, she said, but watching someone else take over something I built, it hurts. Yeah, you're allowed to grieve it. She pulled back, wiping her eyes. I don't regret choosing you. I need you to know that. I know. But I'm allowed to miss what I had. Of course you are. They sat together in the dark living room, Emma asleep down the hall, the city quiet outside. After a while, Victoria spoke again. I'm starting to see it, though. The trade. I lost the company, but I gained this. Mornings with Emma, dinner with you, weekends where I'm not answering emails. A life that feels like mine, not something I'm performing for investors. She looked at him. I think I'm happier. I just didn't know this kind of happiness existed. Adrian kissed her forehead. Welcome to normal life. It's terrifying and boring, and sometimes you want to scream, but it's real. I like real. Good. Because you're stuck with it now. 1 year after that night in the storm, Adrian and Victoria were still figuring it out. Emma had started calling Victoria by her first name. Not Mom, but not Ms. Hale either. Just Victoria. It felt right. The rumors at work had mostly died down. New scandals had replaced theirs. Adrian had been promoted again, this time to a director-level position that he'd campaigned for openly. Marcus was his boss now, and they had lunch every Friday. Victoria's consulting firm was thriving. She'd taken on a 6th client and was considering expanding. She still worked too much, but she came home. That was the difference. They'd moved in together, Victoria's house in Southeast, big enough for all of them. Emma had her own room, painted purple with glow-in-the-dark stars on the ceiling. Adrian had an office. Victoria had a study. They had a life. On the anniversary of their first kiss, Victoria took Adrian back to her old house in West Hills. It was on the market, the rooms empty and echoing. Why are we here? Adrian asked. Because I wanted you to see it one more time. The person I was when I lived here. She walked through the cavernous living room, her footsteps loud on the marble floors. I bought this place to prove I'd made it, to show everyone who'd ever doubted me that I was powerful and successful and untouchable. She stopped at the window overlooking the city. And I was miserable. Adrian came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. Now I live in a 3-bedroom house with a broken dishwasher and a 7-year-old who leaves Legos everywhere, Victoria continued. And I've never been happier. Isn't that strange? Not really. Turns out people need people more than they need power. Profound. I have my moments. She turned in his arms. Thank you. For what? For offering me a ride that night. For not running when things got complicated. For loving me even when I was too scared to love you back. You weren't too scared. You were just cautious. I was terrified. I'm still terrified sometimes. Me too. They stood there in the empty house, holding each other, both of them understanding that fear didn't mean failure. It just meant they had something worth protecting. 3 months later, Victoria asked Emma if she'd be okay with Victoria staying permanently. Emma, ever practical, asked what that meant. It means I'd like to be part of your family. Officially, Victoria said. I won't try to replace your mom, but I'd like to be someone you can count on. Emma thought about this. Can I still call you Victoria? Of course. And you'll help with my science fair project? Absolutely. Okay then. That night, after Emma was asleep, Victoria pulled out a small box. I'm not proposing, she said quickly. We've had enough drama for one lifetime, but I wanted you to have this. Inside was a simple silver band. It's a promise, Victoria said, that I'm here, that I'm staying, that whatever happens, we figure it out together. Adrian slid it onto his finger. It fit perfectly. I love you, he said. I love you too. They didn't need a wedding or a grand gesture. They just needed this, the quiet promise, the choice to keep choosing each other. 2 years after that first storm, Adrian and Victoria stood in Emma's school gymnasium watching her present her science fair project on renewable energy. Emma had worked on it for months, and Victoria had helped with every step: research, design, presentation. When Emma won second place, she ran to both of them, throwing her arms around Adrian first, then pulling Victoria into the hug. We did it. You did it, Victoria corrected. We just helped. Emma beamed. Can we get ice cream to celebrate? Absolutely. They went to Emma's favorite place, a small shop near the river. Emma got cookie dough. Adrian got vanilla. Victoria got salted caramel and let Emma steal half of it. Walking back to the car, Emma between them holding both their hands, Adrian felt something settle in his chest. Peace. This was peace. What are you thinking? Victoria asked. That I'm happy. Yeah? Yeah. She squeezed his hand. Me too. It wasn't a fairy tale. They still fought about stupid things. They still struggled sometimes to balance work and family and the 1,000 small demands of daily life. Victoria still had nightmares about losing everything. Adrian still worried about money, even though they had enough now. But they had each other. They had Emma. They had a life they'd built from honesty and risk, and the terrifying choice to be vulnerable. And maybe that was the point. Maybe love wasn't about perfection or ease or avoiding pain. Maybe it was about finding someone worth fighting for and choosing them every single day, even when it was hard. Especially when it was hard. That night, after Emma was asleep, Adrian and Victoria sat on their back porch watching the stars. Do you ever regret it? Adrian asked. Giving up the company? Victoria considered this. Sometimes I miss the power, the certainty, knowing exactly who I was and what I was supposed to do. But I don't miss the loneliness, and I don't miss pretending to be someone I'm not. She looked at him. You taught me that it's okay to want more than success, that there's strength in admitting you need someone. You taught me that I'm worth more than I thought, that I didn't have to settle for scraping by just because that's all I'd ever known. We're quite the pair. Yeah, we are. They sat in comfortable silence, the night cool around them, the house warm behind them. Inside, Emma slept soundly, safe and loved. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new fears, new choices, But tonight they had this, and this was enough. Maybe the lesson wasn't about power or sacrifice or even love. Maybe it was simpler than that. Maybe it was just about being brave enough to let someone see you, really see you, and trusting that they wouldn't run. About building something honest from the ruins of what you thought you needed to be. Victoria had walked away from an empire. Adrian had risked everything he'd built for his daughter. And together, they'd found something worth more than either of those things. They'd found home, not in a place, but in each other. In the messy, imperfect, beautiful chaos of choosing to be present, to be vulnerable, to be real. Adrian reached for Victoria's hand. She laced her fingers through his. "I'm glad your car broke down that night," he said. Victoria laughed. "Me too." Even though it led to all of this? Especially because it led to all of this. They sat there until the stars blurred and the temperature dropped, neither of them wanting to go inside, both of them savoring the simple miracle of being here, together, alive. In the end, that was all anyone could ask for. Not a perfect life, but a real one. Not a romance without struggle, but a connection worth struggling for. Not power or wealth or status, but something infinitely more valuable. Love that was chosen freely, given honestly, and built to last. And for Adrian and Victoria, that was more than enough. It was everything.